Hey out there, this is Thursday, December, 5th, 2019, and it is just about 8 minutes past 8 in the morning here in Northern California. And today I'll get into a few things, as usual. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and, it's really my favorite holiday. I sometimes can go a year without seeing my daughters, and that's a time when we all come together, and it's a really wonderful experience. Got a great family, and got a really nice sister that hosted the Thanksgiving at her place in Novato, California, in Marin County there, and my nieces, who were both recently married within the last couple of years, and their husbands, really nice guys, and my daughter from Pacifica, she brought her husband, Mike, super guy, furniture maker, excellent woodworker. This guy could be famous with how good he is. But yeah, it was a great experience. I know one of my, I guess my niece's husband, I'm not sure what legally that the term for his relationship to me is, but I don't think it's a nephew, maybe nephew-in-law, something like that maybe. But he came up from San Diego in his Tesla, and I got to tell you, that is one beautiful automobile. Very nice looking car. But it's kind of nice, I guess, for the most part, no gasoline. None, I guess, in the Tesla. They're not even hybrid, right? So they got to stop at filling stations. But I had a good time. I hope everybody else had a good time, and that's what it's all about. And I learned recently, my whole life I never knew this, but Abraham Lincoln was the one that gave us this holiday. And I always liked Abraham Lincoln. A lot of people don't know this, but I learned a long time ago that Abraham Lincoln, as a boy, was homeless. And he lived in a makeshift cabin and squatted on some property. I guess they had permission. His dad had, of course, Abraham Lincoln, everybody knows the story of him walking all this way to get to school and everything. But a lot of people didn't know that he was basically brought up dirt poor. I think his dad's name was Thomas Lincoln. And so he was homeless. Abraham Lincoln was homeless as a child. This has come up a lot in California recently, this homelessness, and I'm glad to see Gavin Newsom. He's sticking to his guns on this issue, and I just thank God for that. We need politicians that go against the grain, that go against the flow, and this is a very serious issue politically, and it has nothing to do with Democrat, Republican. Nothing, my friends. It has nothing to do with socialist, capitalist, liberal, conservative, or otherwise. Okay, this is political in the purest sense of the word. It's evil, and it has everything to do with money, profiting. You understand? And this is why I say people could say, "Oh, this guy is a nut. He's hyper cynical. He comes up with these things like, we need people to literally die out on the street in order for the special interest groups involved in high housing costs that profit and benefit from gouging the public, fixing prices, manipulating markets. How these people, they need, and a lot of these people won't admit to it, and a lot of them just are unthinking automaton minions for the most part. They know which side their bread is butter on, and they go with the flow. This is it. They're looking after themselves and their families, and so we all understand the motivation why people just want to make gobs of dough and just decide not to think about the struggling masses and how their business affairs have a direct effect on everybody else. This thing they call, the value of your house went up for no good reason. In the real estate world, we don't talk about this publicly, but yeah, that's called an unearned increment. Now, it seems to me King Solomon said something about ill-gotten gain. and how this was not a good thing. And if you have a conscience, if you have an iota of the fear of the Lord in your soul, you don't want to be involved in unearned increments, okay? And then we got all these people saying how bad a universal basic income is. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Let's get rid of Social Security. If that's bad, then once somebody, everything they gave to Social Security when they were paying their taxes, once that's exhausted, then you cut them off. So we got all these old people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s. And we say, that's it, no more. You're homeless, you're destitute, you can't, maybe you could get food stamps if you're lucky, I don't know. But you're going to live in a tent. I mean, you're going to lose your will to live, and that's the whole idea. We don't care. People are expendable. I mean, this is the way it works. It's sick. So all you people, you sicken me, and I've got more to say about that later. But, I'm really trying to keep this video series more brief. So I really wish I could get to the gist of what I'm trying to say here quicker. But I do want to give a well-rounded idea of where I'm coming from. I talk about how I try to get into psycho-spiritual, financial issues. But I mean, I could add to that emotional and social issues. I mean, what's with all the vices? Why are people so effed up in the head? We got to run to these things that it's insanity. Like Einstein said, you repeat the same thing over and over again. You're beating your head against the wall, same results. You don't get anything. It's because there's so much evil in the land that the righteous want to run, not walk. So it's like it's always picking on the nicest people first that seek forms of escapism. Because once you face reality and you go, oh my God, it's true. It's very cut and dry and simple. It's evil. It's traumatic. But I digress. But to get into this political thing I'm talking about has everything to do with money. So it's much worse than if I could just tell you, look, vote Republican or vote Democrat because they're the real good guys. They really want to end desperate poverty in America, which we should be ashamed of. Like Trump, the only reason I voted for Trump because he said he was ashamed of homelessness. But what's he doing? What's he doing? Is he breathing down Ben Carson's neck and saying, hey, we're either going to get rid of that $50 billion a year subsidy to help people that can't afford their housing costs, or I want to start seeing some progress, some results. Because what we got here is a case of like a leaking gas tank in your car, and the solution is just keep dumping it, more gas in there. You got this big hole, and it keeps getting bigger. You're just eroding it. It's the same effect. You see that homelessness has gotten worse. Unaffordable housing has gotten worse. This desperation. The fear and insecurity revolving around this essential human need. It's shelter. It's as fundamental. Every animal, a bird seeks a nest. A fox seeks a hole. Okay? Every creature in the world seeks some form of comfortable habitat, a comfort zone, shelter, safety from the storms, all that, from the heat. How this can be happening in America, we should be utterly ashamed of ourselves. We're the laughing stock of the planet, calling ourselves capitalist leaders of the free world and all this. A Christian nation. Nothing could be further from the truth. God's wrath is hanging heavy over America. We're doomed. I mean, we're down this demonic rabbit hole to hell a long way. You know what kind of trauma, what kind of catastrophe, what kind of cataclysm it's going to take to get this worm to turn? We're in a lot of trouble, my friends. I'm telling you, it frightens the hell out of me. I've been paying attention my whole life. We had a money printer's coup, in my estimation, in 1963 at the assassination of JFK. He was in the process of nullifying the Federal Reserve. We weren't going to need him anymore. He was already busily, I remember as a child seeing the United States Treasury notes, these new dollars. It's a generic term, dollar. And they were silver-backed, and the people understood that intuitively, even if they didn't understand intellectually this idea of sound money, how it's based and backed by a finite substance, this thing we call silver, right? And how that would retain the worth, and we would have stability. And what you would see, I mean, you don't have to be an economic genius to figure this stuff out. JFK understood this. He was an egalitarian. He was a good American. He knew it would create a rising tide of prosperity, that lifted all boats, didn't leave any behind. You understand, your currency is supposed to do the opposite of being debased. It's supposed to increase in worth if you're making any progress. So we could, at the end of the day, everybody on Earth owns a tenth of an ounce of silver, okay, and they're all rich. And then in 1,000 years, maybe they own 1/100th of an ounce of silver. It doesn't matter because it's increased in worth. So everybody's rich. Here's my 1/100th of an ounce. See, look, you can barely see it, but there it is. That's what should happen. That's called progress. Supply and demand. That's a civilized society where we treat each other like family, where we're not at each other's throats and we're divided like this. You think this pleases God? Just think of God as your parents, your creator, your owner. It's very simple to understand. It's not, what do your parents want for you? The best. Do they want you to suffer unnecessary pain at the hands of some tyrant? No. But this is what we've got here. We're being robbed by these people. And all through history, if you look at what happens when they exploit the people too much, they end up with a bloody revolution, a civil war on their hands. So they're walking that tightrope in a very scientific manner now. Algorithms, they use all these scientific things, methods to see, well, how far can we push? We got to do it really slow, incrementally, like the frog in the water. We know that. We got that. It's got to be very gradual, subtle. The oppression, the tyranny, taking away their freedom, stealing the wealth that belongs to the nation and the people of the nation, of course. That's what a nation is comprised of, right? The people of the nation. So we're in a lot of trouble because these people are pushing to this day. I mean, they're announcing all over the media, rents are going to be going up. Expect rents to go up. You understand, these people, they're like power-drunken, snot-nosed, bratty children, okay, that took over the candy shop. Doesn't matter how they took it over, illegitimately or not. Well, the politicians okayed it, like bailout of '08, I would point to. The children are the bankster class, the money printing class, and the politicians. You understand? These are the snot-nosed, bratty children that need to be parented. But who's going to do it? They've got the law working for them. You understand? I mean, these people are illegitimate. We should fire all of them. If they're just working against the best interests of American people, and I unequivocally can strongly contend that, of course they are, obviously. Empirically speaking, they are. Axiomatically speaking, they are. It's in your face, prima facie, duh. Look at California now. Now the minority of California residents are homeowners, but people are owning multiple homes. So those, strong home sales, strong demand and all this, well, that's who it is. That wealth imbalance keeps growing. You call this progress? This is regress, in your face regress. Where does it end? You think we don't need God's help in this matter? It's a mess. So, yes, I contend that on this homelessness issue, they literally need people to die out in the cold. Okay, and a lot of people are oblivious to this fact that are involved in these industries. All these colluding special interest groups that benefit from high housing costs, including the very government, which makes it fascist, because they all figure out, hey, I know which side my bread is buttered on. The higher the property taxes go, the more money in my coffers. I could give myself a raise. I work for the city, I work for the county, I work for the state, I work for the federal government, or I'm a proxy or surrogate, subcontractor. Hey, whatever, You understand? I mean, people know things on an intuitive level. So none of this stuff, a lot of it's not spoken of in the media, because these people are oblivious and people just go along. We're so trained, inculcated, indoctrinated into just going with the flow, which we call the path of least resistance. Your rent went up, just find a way to pay it. Just, stay on this hamster wheel that just keeps getting harder and harder and harder. It's no longer freewheeling. Like so much of my life, it was spent fairly freewheeling. Got a little tougher here and there with the inflation and through the debasement of currency caused by inflation, the dilution of the money, the deworthment of the money. You understand? When the opposite should be happening if we're making any progress as a civilized society. It's disgusting. It's repugnant, it's repulsive. And I'm beside myself with woe about this thing. And I have to take it to God and to the public and speak truth to power, and anybody else will listen. I don't want you duped, deceived. You're disempowered. You're not helping me at all with this cause of fighting the good fight and demanding progress. because the degree of tyranny we live under is the degree that we tolerate. It's that simple. So anybody that complies, conforms, and goes along with this thing and just, okay, my rent went up, I can afford it, I'm okay, I'm making good money. It's somebody else's tough luck. You see, you're hurting other people. When it's the straw that breaks a camel's back if their rent goes up $50, but I don't mind. I'm still saving. I've got hundreds of thousands of bucks. I'm waiting to buy a house. You're doing good. So you understand you're feeding that beast, that monster. They call this the fair market value, the going market rate, or some damn thing like that. When it's a wholly manipulated market rate, it's collusive price fixed market